How's it going, everybody? Blaine here for Bridgeport Games, and we just got another Pokebros event. Literally, about 2 hours ago, they dropped the top 8, and so what's going on here? They held another event on the Victory Station online, and we have a brand new top 8 that we need to cover for Series 10, and it's really amazing because the results of this are a lot different than what we actually saw last time, so it really opens the door for a lot of new strategies that people may be using going forward. So I'm not even home in my studio at the moment. I'm actually at my girlfriend's place, and we are recording here just to make sure that I can get this information to you guys as soon as possible. So first up, Zacian won again, which is pretty crazy because Zacian is so good, and obviously it makes sense. We're not surprised to see it win, but it's using some of the mons that are a little different here in Mineshow and Gothitelle. So I'm going to cover all the top 8 teams. We do have a couple of the team spreads, but we're going to start right here with Neil, number 1. And we're just going to go ahead and jump right in and take a look at his team. So, as you can see here, of course, he's using Zacian, classic Rusted Sword. He's using Iron Head Close Combat, so he's using Close Combat instead of Sacred Sword. But he's still using Behemoth Blade with Sub and Protect. This is pretty standard for Zacians that we're seeing, You want to pretty much get behind subs so you can, start protecting and taking some pot shots. So nothing really there is anything unusual. But we are seeing now, again, this Volcarona Rillaboom combo that has kind of picked up in the last event, and now we're seeing it, being used to actually win the event here. So Volcarona has Flame Body and Grassy Seed. So what you do is you bring it out with the Grassy Terrain set of Rillaboom and use it to get an extra +1 defense, and then you use Quiver Dance to help it get a +1 special defense, making it incredibly bulky. And then it has Giga Drain and Heat Wave. So it's not using Rage Powder at all. Really, it's just using Quiver Dance to become a real quick sweeper because it does get that speed and special attack boost also. Almost like a mini Geomancy in a way. And it's also very good at checking opposing Zacians. And it's also good at just checking a lot of the random things that kind of can pose issues for Zacian. So he's pairing this also with a Gothitelle that has Shadow Tag. It has Fake Out, Helping Hand, Protect, and Foul Play. If you trap a Xerneas with a Zacian, certainly that's going to be a good way to deal with that. And it's just a lot of utility that we see here. Now, Mineshow, again, very interesting because we hadn't really seen that much before. So it is using Focus Sash and has Close Combat, Detect, or basically Protect, Rock Slide, and Wide Guard. Now, I don't know, exactly, like Rock Slide, I assume is just a coverage, just kind of a coverall spread move that it can use to start doing some damage, which is cool. And Wide Guard does protect against quite a lot of things, actually. It protects against Dazzling Gleam. It protects against, obviously, Rock Slide, like we're covering here. It protects against Water Spout. So the fact that it's a Wide Guard mon that can actually do damage is pretty appealing in the format. Actually, the individual who won last time used a Wide Guard on Swampert for a similar effect. And again, it was to have Wide Guard on an offensive mon, not so much a supportive one. So that's pretty interesting that we're starting to see that kind of come out. And last but not least, we have a Regieleki with Life Orb, Volt Switch, Thunderbolt, Electroweb, and Protect. Nothing really all that, unusual there. But we do actually have the rental team, the rental code for the team right here. It is 00000007 GN9P and 8V. So give this team a try if you want, guys. He actually was so gracious to include this. So, super shout outs to him for being willing to provide that, because a lot of people are not willing to provide their teams, really at this point. All right, so moving on to team number 2. Now, this is not a team that we have a breakdown for, but it is using Calyrex Shadow, Indeedee Female, Rillaboom, Stakataka, Urshifu, and Alolan Marowak. Now, there's a lot to unpack here. So most likely, Indeedee Female obviously is using Psychic Terrain, most likely, and the Shadow Rider has Expanding Force and probably Shadow Tag. Rillaboom is pretty standard. Stack Attack is very interesting. I assume he has some kind of Trick Room package going on here with Stakataka and Alolan Marowak. We do know Alolan Marowak is very strong against Zacian. It's okay against like Xerneas too, because it resists both of the fairy moves. So while it's not amazing there, it's quite good at checking it. And he also has an Urshifu. We don't know what kind of Urshifu it is, if it's Shadow or Single Strike or Rapid Strike. I would guess it's Rapid Strike based on the way most of the formats have been kind of trending, and the fact that he's bringing Psychic Terrain, so something like Sucker Punch won't work, but again, we're not really sure. It's just not something we know, unfortunately. Top 4 here now, we do have Marcus, and Marcus is using a Xerneas team, and he's using Xerneas again with the Rillaboom and Volcarona combo, and he's rounding that off with Incineroar, Tornadus, and Urshifu. Now again, the Mons in the middle really don't need much explaining. Incineroar, Rillaboom are going to be everywhere. Just make sure you're prepared for them. That's all I can say, because everybody has them. And then, obviously, Volcarona now becoming the third pick of choice to really help out these Mons. And, it's great against Zacian. So it's something to definitely consider. And again, we don't know what kind of Urshifu he has, but they're both amazing. So really, either Urshifu will get the job done. And then finishing this off with Tornadus is pretty interesting, because Tornadus can do a lot. Aside from the fact it can bring Tailwind, it can also help do other things, like it can use Icy Wind. It can even potentially use Taunt. So it has a lot of different options as far as being able to, answer some of the problems that Xerneas is going to typically face in the meta. And I'm really not surprised to see it paired up with Xerneas here. It's a mon that tends to always be with other restricteds like Kyogre, so there's no real surprise that it's here. Alright, moving on now to Amaze Maker. This is KD Amari. We faced him in the High Roller Draft League. He's a good guy, and I am very excited that he shared the team with us, most importantly. So here we have, again, KD Amari. So he is using Calyrex Shadow, again, Indeedee Male this time, Tapu Lele, Whimsicott, Urshifu Dark, and Regieleki. Now, first off, elephant in the room here. Calyrex Shadow is using Astral Barrage, Shadow Ball, and Expanding Force with Protect and a Life Orb. That's all pretty standard, I would think. Then Tapu Lele. We don't see Tapu Lele really ever, so the fact that we're seeing it now is pretty fantastic. But he's using Tapu Lele with Psychic Surge, so he has Tapu Lele and Indeedee to give Psychic Surge, which is pretty cool. And the Tapu Lele is using Psychic, Dazzling Gleam, Nature's Madness, and Shadow Ball. Again, Shadow Ball is great if the opponent is a ghost. It certainly is a great way to check that. And particularly if it's a Calyrex that is 4 times weak to Ghost. Now, the Indeedee Male here is Focus Sash. Obviously, that's not all that unusual. It does have Expanding Force, Trick Room, Imprison, and Helping Hand. So, it looks like this team obviously is going one speed, and that is fast, 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 fast. So being able to shut down Trick Room through the male Indeedee is very, very smart. That's why he doesn't want to waste his time with female Indeedee. And additionally, having a more offensive mon to use Expanding Force and having access to the Helping Hand is really crazy, because Helping Hand Astral Barrage does insane damage. Rounding things off now, he does have a Transistor Regieleki with, a Magnet Regieleki. Obviously, it has Transistor, that's a signature ability, and it has Volt Switch, Electro Web, and Thunderbolt. Again, nothing all that unusual here. It's speed control, it hits hard. That's it. And then we see Whimsicott with Eject button here, which is kind of interesting. I don't know what exactly he's using with that. He could be trying to survive a hit and get out and bring in, an Urshifu or a Terrain Setter. But we do see Whimsicott using Moonblast, Tailwind, Taunt, and Helping Hand. So that's certainly really, really cool. And last but not least, we have a Banded Urshifu. It's Dark this time, and it's Sucker Punch, Wicked Blow, Poison Jab, and Close Combat. So, the team is very, very interesting. I would imagine it's very similar to the... I'm going to go back to it real quick. I imagine it's probably going to be very similar to the second place team, at least in terms of how, Indeedee may interact with Calyrex, and perhaps it also means that Urshifu is dark and not water. Again, we don't really know, unfortunately, but it is very cool to take a look at and just see kind of what people are bringing and what kind of ideas people have. All right, now moving on to Team 5 here, we see something pretty unusual. We see the normal Xerneas, obviously with its 3 Musketeer friends, keeping it safe. Incineroar, Rillaboom, and Volcarona, which are great against everything that's checking Xerneas right now, especially Zacian. But it also is coming with Thundurus, which I believe is a Prankster one, very similar to what we saw take first place in the last event, and a Kangaskhan. So we're going to take a look at what he's running here. Because it is actually quite a bit different. Now, unfortunately, the team spread is in German. but we can kind of get an idea of, what's being used based on what we see here. So, obviously we see Xerneas using the typical power herb, Geomancy, Moonblast, Dazzling Gleam thing. Incineroar definitely has what looks to be Fake Out, along with Flare Blitz, and what I'm assuming is Parting Shot. Now, I don't know what that last move is on there, Brulair. I don't think it would be Protect. It is a normal type move. See, I'm not really sure. If anybody can check that out, let me know. We also see Rillaboom here using a Rose Incense, and it has Fake Out. It also has Protect with Grassy Glide and U-Turn. Obviously, it's just there to hit really hard with Grassy Glide. And then Volcarona is not the Grass Seed type. It is a Citrus Berry variant, and it seems to be using Quiver Dance with Bug Buzz and, of course, a Flamethrower and then Protect. So it is a little bit different, but it is still an offensive variant. Certainly going to be doing quite a bit of damage, I would imagine. Then we come down here to the Thundurus. Now, I assume this is the prankster version of it, because it does have an Aguave Berry, so it is a little bit, probably bulkier, so it's going to be able to go down to like a quarter HP and then recover a bit. But I'm assuming the moves it has here are basically about Thunderbolt, T-Wave, Taunt, and potentially something like Eerie Impulse. So that's what I imagine is going on here. And then Kangaskhan, I'm not entirely sure, again, what the moves are, unfortunately. We do know it has Fake Out and what looks like Ice Punch, and I'm assuming Close Combat. I really am not sure what fighting move that is. If you guys know what that is, let me know, or if you give the rental code a try, let me know. And, obviously I'm curious to know how he's running this Kangaskhan, but it looks like the other moves it has are Sucker Punch and Ice Punch, which both would make sense given, how Kangaskhan operates, and how good Kangaskhan is against, well, rather how good Sucker Punch is against things like Calyrex Shadow, which we are seeing a ton of right now. And Kangaskhan, by nature of being normal type, is immune to Astral Barrage, which is incredibly useful right now. Okay, moving on to the last three teams here, we have Wes using another Zacian team. Now, he's also using another Rillaboom Volcarona team, so again, nothing all that surprising here. Incineroar, of course, coming along with the other two Musketeers here. Obviously, potentially, I take out other Zacian, because that certainly is still a serious problem. And then rounding this off, of course, we have Regieleki and Urshifu. I wouldn't be surprised if the Urshifu was dark, just given the sheer amount of Calyrex here, because this event was kind of interesting for the usage stats, which we're going to cover in a minute. Moving on to 7th place team, Diego. We see he also has Calyrex Shadow and Indeedee Female, so again, very similar to Cooper. But he is opting to bring instead a Tapu Fini, a Tornadus Incarnate, Incineroar, and of course Kartana. So this kind of opens up the gateway for a lot of other things that he may be doing here. Kartana obviously very good against Kyogre if he does encounter that. And obviously things like Tapu Fini are reasonably good against Zacian, so they're things that can just help buy you time and certainly can prevent your mons from getting statused. They may have brought Tapu Fini as a potential answer for the Thunder Wave version of Thundurus that was being used last week. Ultimately, we're not really sure because we don't have the team breakdown, but again, another Calyrex Shadow here in the top 8. And last but not least, we have Neighbor Natty here doing something completely out of left field and bringing Ho-Oh to the event, which is very unusual but very cool. And he has Ho-Oh, Rillaboom and Incineroar, obviously the dynamic duo there. But then he's going to be, finishing things up here with Spectrier, Stakataka, and Gastrodon. So I don't really know exactly what this team is trying to do. I'd be very interested to see these team spreads once it's up, and certainly if we do come into it, I will be happy to post it on our channel here for you guys to see. But yeah, we really just see that he's using Spectrier as opposed to Calyrex, which is interesting. I'm honestly not really sure what he's going for here. Stack Attack is very cool, but he doesn't really have a lot to use in as far as a Trick Room mode goes. I mean, maybe he's assuming that everything he has is slower than a Xerneas or a Zacian, so by virtue of that, he is a Trick Room team. But yeah, I'm not really sure what else he's using, but still a very, very cool team, and I'm very, very glad that we got to feature this, because it's just another way that, we're seeing unusual and cool strategies showing up in Series 10 here. So again, yeah, as for usage though, real quick, I did want to touch on this. We only have, let's see here, 2 Zacians, 2 Xerneas, 3 Calyrex Shadow, and 1 Ho-Oh for the restricted. So it's very interesting, very unusual that we're seeing that. But again, Calyrex Shadow was such a big mon, so you got to make sure you're prepared for it. And certainly Rillaboom in tandem with things like Urshifu Dark can, switch the terrain away from Psychic Terrain and hit him with a big Sucker Punch and just take it out. So that's certainly going to be a strategy I think that we're going to see going forward. So that's all I have for you guys. Let me know what you think about these results, because these are pretty wild. We're seeing a bit of a shift away from what we saw in the first event and really seeing kind of a metagame developing into something, more here. So let me know what team surprised you the most. Let me know what strategies you want to try. And by all means, of the 2 rentals we posted, please go ahead and use them, try them out and see what you like. So that's all I have for you guys. Again, thank you so much for being here. If you like this kind of content, please make sure that you like the video and consider subscribing to the channel to join our amazing Pokemon community. This has been Blaine for Bridge 4 Games, and I'll see you all in the next episode. Have a great day. Bye-bye.